if you're from the Midwest like me and you're moving to Florida and you want to feel right at home, then Ocala, Florida is the place for you. My first impression of this place is it feels just like being back home in Belvidere, Illinois. And why do I say that? Well, I'm going to show you guys around the little town square here. And if you've ever seen that movie Groundhog's Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, a lot of people don't know that that wasn't actually shot in Pennsylvania. The whole town square of that movie was shot in a little town close to where I grew up called Woodstock, Illinois. And this little town square reminds me a lot of that little area. And I'm going to show you guys around here just so you can see what I mean. So this is the town center of Ocala, and it says that the town was founded in 1847, and probably one of the main reasons why it looks a lot like my hometown, Belvidere, is because they were founded pretty close to each other. Belvidere was founded in 1835, so that's probably why you get that same town center type of deal here and that familiar feeling. But besides that, you know, besides the same kind of look and feel, it also feels the same from the point of view when I was driving into town. You see a lot of horse ranches and farms, and you see a lot of guys with monster trucks and motorcycles. We got a lot of that back home too. And you know, it just has that kind of Midwestern vibe here. And when we're talking Florida, it actually feels, the weather here is kind of similar to Tallahassee. It's kind of hot, and it's not as humid as being by the coast when you're near the water. So I guess that's a plus for Ocala, because, you know, if you don't like humidity, so far it's not that humid, but it is hot. It's very hot. It's just a drier heat. So I think it's about 90 degrees right now, and it's about 5:30 in the afternoon. But my first impression of the place is it's basically like being in the Midwest but in Florida. And not that that's a bad thing, but you know, if you're like me and you're leaving the Midwest to kind of get away from that type of deal, then you might want to avoid Ocala. I don't know, guys. That's just my first impression, and it might be worth visiting here if you're in the area, but probably not, because to me it just seems like another little town that you would find in the middle of Illinois or anywhere else in the Midwest, and I don't find anything particularly special or appealing about it in that regard. But it is very affordable to live here, so that is a big benefit, and you are only about an hour and a half away from the beach, which definitely they don't have that in Illinois. So I would definitely say that is a plus. Another thing they have here across the street is like a little town theater, and that reminds me of Belvidere also, because I remember if you go down State Street, which is like the main drag in Belvidere, Illinois, they have all the same things, you know, these historical buildings that were the first ones to go up back then, and then the little theater with the marquee, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's very reminding me of that. Even they got some cobblestone streets here, which they have that over there as well. It's very much built in the same likeness of Belvidere, Illinois. So this is different though than Tallahassee, because what reminded me of Illinois and Tallahassee was more the hills and the foliage and the trees and things like that. But here, what reminds me of Illinois is actually the town itself. Oh, I smell popcorn. You can actually smell the popcorn coming through the theater. It's open, guys. Check it out. Ooh, look at the pretty flowers. How beautiful. Oh yeah, another thing that you're not going to be able to hear in the video, because they'll demonetize the video, is they're playing country music all through this town square, which is another big thing back in Illinois. A lot of people are into that over there. I never was, but a lot of people over there are into that. It's kind of like the cowboy scene, you know? I imagine this is what Kansas City or something like that would be like too. Never been there, but just a guess. So even though this might not be like the best tourist hotspot to come visit, like I'm just visiting right now, it could still be a good place to move if you're looking to raise a family and have a safe place to raise your children, and you enjoy the small town atmosphere, and you still want to be able to take your kids to Disney or the beach occasionally and have an affordable place to live, and I would imagine have a pretty high quality of life. So don't think I'm talking down on the place just because it reminds me of the Midwest. It's just my first impression of it, and it is what it is. But there are benefits to that, and there's a reason why people choose the Midwest to be their home, guys, and it's the reasons I just mentioned. So I think that this could be a very good place to live, and I know that the real estate prices here are pretty low for Florida. I had clients that moved here probably like 7 or 8 years ago. They had a small kid, and they came here to raise their family. I think coming here for that reason could be a good option for some people. Another thing to notice here and point out is you do have some elevation here. That's a pretty decent sized hill right there. We don't have hills like this in Miami. So it's not flat in Ocala either. So that's a good thing. Probably don't have to worry nearly as much about flooding or anything like that here. Just another observation. Here's another angle of the town square. And in case anybody doesn't know, who's never lived in a small town before, usually in the town square like this is where they have like their big events of the city. They'll throw little concerts here or some kind of farmer's market. Things like that usually happen in places like this. Even though it's kind of hot for being late in the afternoon, there's no denying it's a beautiful evening here, and I'm glad we actually came to the town center at this time. Obviously, Ocala cares about the veterans. That's always nice to see as well. Here's more of those big, beautiful oak trees with the Spanish moss on them. Thanks to everybody who saw my Tallahassee videos who filled me in on what kind of trees they were and what's up with that moss. They have a couple of these plaques in the town center here kind of describing some of the historical moments that took place here. But I've read this one a few times and still don't really understand what this means. Obviously it has something to do with a farmers alliance, but I don't really get it. Probably have to look this one up. Now this one's kind of interesting because apparently the original courthouse in Ocala used to stand right here where this plaque is, and after a few attempts of having the courthouse here, they decided to demolish it, and now it's just all this town center. But that's kind of a cool story. I'm only staying here one night because I know Ocala is like a small town, and I figured there's not a whole lot to do here, and I'm not considering living here. I'm just really here just to check it out for you guys and let you know what I think about the area. And now I'm like debating whether or not to head back over to the Palm Coast and Daytona Beach area for another day or head west, because the plan was to get down to Tampa. I'm thinking of skipping Tampa because we've been to Tampa before and heading to some of the other areas on the West Coast that we haven't been to before. And we only got about 5 nights left until we have to be back in Miami. So trying to maximize the rest of the time we got left here. You guys will see what happens. I'll keep you posted. These are my first impressions of Ocala, Florida. Check out my next video on the screen, and I'll see you guys over there.